The inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. The popular wisdom is that immigrant workers, especially the undocumented, are an economic drain on the American economy. The assumption is that these workers take jobs that native-born Americans would otherwise occupy, and in any case, they are all concentrated in low-wage jobs that are of little economic significance. A study released on Thursday in Cincinnati, commissioned by the Hispanic Chamber of Cincinnati, USA, and conducted by the Applied Economics Research Institute at the University of Cincinnati, found those assumptions are flawed. I am joined this morning by two people connected to this study. Alfonso Cornejo is the president of the Hispanic Chamber and a regular guest, our frequent guest on Newsmaker. And Benjamin Passty is the director of the Applied Economics Research Institute at the University of Cincinnati. Professor Passty and his colleagues at the Institute conducted this study. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's begin by, taking a look at this economic impacts study. When I think of economic impact studies, I think of economists frequently at UC doing a study about something that's being proposed, like a casino, for example, or a new baseball stadium, and then figuring out what might be the economic benefits or downside of such a project. How does that fit to studying workers and immigrant workers? Why is this an economic impact study?
The thing that's in common with both of those economic events is that there's an outside stimulus. In the case of the casino, you have capital coming in from the outside that's being used to build the casino. In the case of the workers, our goal was to try to measure the effect of having undocumented workers in the area by using a model that would essentially treat the appearance of those workers as an outside stimulus to the economy of the Cincinnati area.
Okay, and I'm reading the study correctly, what you tried to take a look at was the impact that the unit was 1,000 workers, and how much economic impact 1,000 workers had. Is that right?
Yes, but let me just make a clarification. This is a hypothetical study, and it doesn't have to do anything to do with illegalities or legalities. Imagine you have 1,000 work permits.
Okay.
And somebody's going to be coming to the nation to do those jobs that nobody wants to do. This can be Hispanic, can be Africans, can be European, can be Asian. There's 1,000 persons that are willing to do the jobs that our kids and our parents do not want to do.
Okay.
So, and there are plenty of evidence of many jobs that are not being done because of this.
Now, this is actually a follow-up study. There was an earlier study done by the same organization, right? The Institute?
That's true.
Back in 2006.
Yes.
And why do you need a follow-up? Because it's 4 years later, or in fact, you're looking at a different group of workers?
I think the second one. The study in 2006 was primarily focusing on the professional Hispanics that live in the Cincinnati area. And we're blessed to have a very strong group of professional Hispanics. We have a large percentage of Hispanics with advanced degrees, lawyers, doctors, architects, engineers. And people were telling us, well, yeah, but what about the other type of Hispanics?
In fact, since you brought that up, I want to go to a full screen, because I took some of the data that's here. And if you look at, if we could look at the educational attainment full screen, please. There we go. In terms of what you were just saying, Alfonso, in terms of graduate degrees, actually the Hispanic population has a higher percentage of graduate degrees. Now, why would that be than the population as a whole?
In my opinion, there's a pre-selection to come into the country. These people come sponsored by a company, like
Procter & Gamble.
UC, Procter & Gamble, and GE. So to come into the country, they're extremely highly qualified.
Okay.
So they have engineering degrees, doctor degrees. So in a way, it makes sense.
Okay. So those numbers from that 2006 were looking at the professional Hispanics and making the point. So this one, though, who were the workers you were looking at, and what were your assumptions about how much they made and what kind of jobs they were in?
Sure.
The data that we used are actually data on how sectors of the economy interrelate. So the model, think intuitively about if I were to ask you to build a house for me. So you would say, okay, well, if I'm going to build a house, I need to call an electrician. I need someone who's going to pour concrete for the foundation. You would think about a number of different inputs for that house that you'd have to buy. Those are the data that we use. So when we have workers coming in who are working at the types of jobs that undocumented immigrants often have, those workers consume certain services. They go to the grocery store and they buy certain entertainment, and they often rent. Okay. And so the data actually follow the expenditures through the economy as they're spent and respent.
And the assumption is how much money, these are hourly workers, the lower end, but what was your assumption going in about how much they were making?
We were looking at wages of between $8 and $12 an hour. Okay. Those figures come from other studies of undocumented workers that have been conducted by economists, including
and we're very conservative on those numbers. We think that
because in the trades, people might be making
or working Saturdays and Sundays, for example. On this study, we tried to be very, very conservative, because what we wanted to do was, there's study after study telling us that these hard-working individuals are a plus to the economy, study after study. And people in this community still tell, yeah, but that's in Texas, or that is in California, that's not Cincinnati. Okay. So we commissioned the University of Cincinnati to do this study because to erase all those doubts. Well, let's do a study right in Cincinnati, in the metropolitan area, to see.
But I want to be clear here that from your perspective, you didn't go in with a preconceived assumption that you were going to erase all the doubts.
No, what we were looking to do was measure an impact that included such services as healthcare.
Okay.
And even including that, by looking at the average healthcare expenditures for low-wage workers nationwide, we're able to conclude that there'd be a positive impact.
And before we get to those impacts and some of those numbers, I want to make one other point, and you're making an assumption that people are sending back home, wherever home is, about 4% of their earnings. They're here earning so that they can support their families.
This is something that's changing among immigrant populations. It used to be that they would send much more back, but a lot of studies recently have found evidence that the focus of immigrants now in the United States is on investing and building a life here, and that's meant that there's been a noticeable drop in remittances.
And we were very conservative on the planning of the study. So the numbers that we will, that the UC Research Center found are really, really conservative. Within the economic impact for these people is even higher.
Let's take a look at some figures on the economic impact. So what did you find here? And we can see some of these, but you can just go ahead and talk.
So we found that accounting for the spending and respending in the economy, introducing 1,000 low-wage workers would have a total impact of over $32 million on the economy. That $32 million would mean, in addition to those 1,000 jobs, between 320 and 350 additional jobs would be created.
On the third line, we're saying I read the study slightly differently, but that doesn't make that much difference. No. So 353 jobs. So these are jobs being generated beyond the 1,000 jobs.
Exactly. And that's the key learning that people keep telling us they're taking away jobs from the local economy. That is a lie. That is not true. These people are creating jobs, and these jobs pay better than the $10 that these people were making in this study.
So those 300 plus jobs could be jobs any place in the
metro area.
It would depend on which sector the workers worked in.
Okay, so people are sending some remittances back to home.
Right.
But they're spending money on, you're factoring in healthcare, you're factoring in those kinds of services?
Yes.
Okay, so, and they're still having that sort of, even low-income people are having that sort of impact.
One of the learnings that we have from the study is that hard work it's good for the economy. These people work very, very hard. They work all year. They get up in the morning and they go to bed, and they go to bed in the morning. And hard work pays. I mean, hard work contributes to the economy, to the growth of the economy. If you work 1 week and you don't work for 3 weeks, this will not be possible. These people work very, very hard, and hard work helps the economy.
One of the things, and I don't see it in this study, a lot of times people are saying, okay, people are out there, they're earning money, and maybe they're even doing jobs that native-born Americans don't want to do, and people will grant that, but it's like they are drawing on various benefits in the society without paying into.
Right.
So they're drawing on, for example, the healthcare system and through the emergency rooms without necessarily paying for it. Their children go to school, but they're not paying taxes.
Right.
They're, is this study coping with any of that?
So that they're not paying taxes is not true. Because by all estimates, and these are IRS estimates, the undocumented immigrants are paying over $7 billion a year in income taxes and Social Security to the IRS.
How could they be paying that if they're undocumented? That's the confusing point to people.
If they've used falsified documents to get a job, then all their employer would see is they have a Social Security number and they have a taxpayer ID number. And so they would withhold the money from their paycheck and send it to the IRS.
Taxes are being paid.
Right.
What about on the other side of that? What about, are they then drawing on, say, food stamps? Are they drawing on what used to be called welfare, but there's other forms, SSI and whatever? Are they drawing, if they're paying in, do they then get those benefits?
There are a lot of surveys of undocumented immigrants that have found that the take-up rate on WIC and on AFDC and programs like that is extraordinarily low, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 4%.
Okay, so these are people who in fact are paying taxes.
Yes.
But aren't drawing at the full level,
Right.
And they're never going to see the Social Security benefits because those are, if they've got false doctored documents, they may be paying in, but they're never going to get those back. They're never going to be able to claim those. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes, yes. But to us, the very, very revealing fact is that these people are creating jobs for Americans. And the unemployment will be higher if we didn't have these people. So they are helping the economy. Study after study have shown that this is the case. Unemployment goes down when these people work.
Well, there's two areas I want to get to here at the end, given that setup. One is on the question of immigration reform. What does this data, and there's a lot of other studies too, but this is a local data. What does this say from a data point of view, from an evidence point of view, about the workforce and what we ought to be thinking of when we talk about immigration reform?
Immigration reform needs to be redesigned. I think that's clear. There are a couple of principles that have been largely ignored in recent history. One of them is that immigration, especially between Mexico and the US, heavily depends on the economic cycles of the two countries as they compare. Workers coming from Mexico are especially sensitive to the strength of the economy and the labor market in the United States. And so having a policy that doesn't change in the number of permits that can be issued depending on that labor market in the United States seems to be ignoring the major motivation.
And if it is a flexible working program, people can come in and out. For hundreds of years, people were coming to the States to work for 3 years and going back to Mexico, going back and forth, back and forth. And if you have a flexible system, I think will be a very, very beneficial for both sides.
And even though we have an inflexible system in many ways right now, if I'm reading other data out there correctly, because of the economic downturn, immigrants are going back. We're seeing an actual reduction not only the number of immigrants coming, but we're seeing people who are going home because this economy has got problems.
And we've seen this before in 2001 and in 1991 and in 1983.
Right. So it's, as you were saying, the markets are the labor market is sensitive, and people fluctuate back and forth.
And the system will allow you to do that in an easy way and simple way. That'll be
the one other thing is, and Alfonso, you've been on the front line of this for a long time, that is people out there who believe that this immigration process is wrong for our area, is hurting our area. What do you think producing a study like this with numbers and data, is anybody going to care about the numbers and data?
If somebody doesn't want to see the data, if somebody doesn't want to really understand it, they're going to continue to attack and attack and attack with misleading information. This provides a robust economic study, not to use that argument. You can have other reasons why you hate immigrants or hate Hispanics, but don't use the economic impact, because they are not a drain into the economy. In fact, they are helping the economy. Now, if people do not want to see it, that's a different story. We're another different conversation. But we keep hearing, oh, they are draining the economy. They're taking jobs away from us. This clarifies. This study is done here with our industry, with our economy, so that there's no more discussion on that. They can use other arguments too.
And my observation is that this study fits into a much larger body of literature that's developing around the country and nationally about, at least on the economic impact.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's absolutely true. And the nice thing about this literature is that they use a number of different methodologies to reach these conclusions. There was a study done at University of Notre Dame that surveyed immigrants directly. There was one done at UC Davis that was just released last week that built what's effectively a macroeconomic model. And these are the same types of macroeconomic models that are used to forecast economic growth nationwide. And
the Cato Institute, the most conservative think tank, concluded after pressure from hundreds of universities, hey, immigrants produce a net plus into the economy. The Cato Institute, that's...
Well, I want to let people know, if you would like to read the study for yourself, check out the website of the Hispanic Chamber, www.HispanicChamberCincinnati, all run together, .com. It'll be there soon. It's not there yet, but it will be there soon. And if you also can, while you're there, you can find information about events during the Hispanic Heritage Month. That includes a discussion of the evening on September the 22nd at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center on issues surrounding immigration reform, what we were just talking about. I will chair that session. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Stay tuned. After the break, the oldest social service agency in Cincinnati marks its 180th anniversary. Yeah, count me down to the beginning of the close, because we've got that that SOT in the close. I want to make sure we use that and get out, okay? Yeah, that's fine. All right, okay, here we go. Founded in 1830 to serve the spiritual and human needs of the people who worked in the river trade, Cincinnati Union Bethel is the oldest social service agency in the Midwest. Over the last 180 years, it has adapted time and time again. The people have changed, the facilities have changed, and the programs have changed, but the commitment to the mission has been constant. Welcome back. Cincinnati Union Bethel at 180 has developed a set of 3 basic services at this point. It operates 3 early childhood centers where it helps children from poor families get ready for kindergarten. It operates the Anna Louise Inn in Lytle Park, providing affordable housing for poor women, and it has created the nationally recognized Off the Streets program to assist women trapped in prostitution escape and create meaningful lives. I am joined this morning by Stephen MacConnell, the President and CEO of Cincinnati Union Bethel, and Mary Carol Melton, the Executive Vice President. Stephen, Mary Carol, welcome back.
Good morning.
And congratulations on 180 years.
Thank you.
It is very difficult for any organization to survive 180 years, whether that's a business or a not-for-profit. Lots of ups and downs in those, and lots of changes, right?
Oh yes, there were many changes over the years. Union Bethel has filled needs as they saw it as it grew over the years. But those 180 years, I'm sure there were plenty of ups and downs.
And how long have you been there?
9 years.
You've been there 9 years.
Yes.
In those 9 years, what do you think has changed? What's the most important thing?
Well, of course, we've began the Off the Streets program, which has been just embraced by the community. And we have changed our culture substantially, and I believe brought Cincinnati Union Bethel to a profile in the community where we can really serve better.
Mary Carol, we've done an entire segment on Off the Streets, but just to remind people, because you have led that effort along with a lot of other people, remind people why that's important.
The Off the Streets program is so important, Dan. We have over 25 to 30 agencies who are involved in this collaborative. Cincinnati Union Bethel is the lead agency, of course. And, you know, we are taking women who literally have been homeless, living on the streets, turning to prostitution really out of desperation, and we are changing that desperation into some hope. We offer emergency housing and really an opportunity for women to decide to turn their lives around. And we have so many champions in the community that we just could not do this program without.
Including the police department, who loves the program.
I would say the police department is our greatest champion. They really have gotten behind this, and they see this as such a good alternative. They don't want to keep arresting women and just, you know, sort of churning women in and out of the criminal justice system when nothing changes.
Right, it's just frustrating.
Chief Stryker on down is just, they have been a godsend to this program.
Well, one of the keys to that program is being able to provide a place for those women to live and have a safe, comfortable place to be, and that's been the Anna Louise Inn.
Yes.
And you had a very important announcement about the future of Anna Louise Inn. And what is that? Where do we stand with that important facility?
Well, we're very excited. The Anna Louise Inn will be completely renovated from the inside from small dorm rooms, dormitory style rooms with bathrooms at the end of the hall, to 85 apartments for affordable living, safe living for women. And that'll be done through, it began with an application to the Ohio Finance Authority, and that was our announcement, and we received very, very much support.
Well, you know, the Anna Louise Inn frames the southern side of Lytle Park. And if there is a great place in Cincinnati, it is Lytle Park. And the Anna Louise Inn has been so important to that. It's part of all of that, the park that was created by the Taft family over the years. And Anna Louise Inn itself is, what, 100 years old,
It
right?
is.
Last year?
101 last year. And to think that, I mean, that's one of the continuous programs that we can really feel very proud of. For 101 years, Cincinnati Union Bethel has offered safe and affordable housing for women in the same location.
Yeah.
And to be able to upgrade this beautiful facility.
You know, it's not only safe and affordable, it's dignified.
Absolutely.
We just saw some video, and we saw a woman walking in, and that pillars on the front porch. I mean, it's just such a dignified place. Now, it doesn't have air conditioning.
It doesn't.
No, that will be one of the improvements, Dan. But you cannot imagine the sense of feeling dignified that building and that surrounding really do give the women. That's a very good point.
So, the children's programs, the Anna Louise Inn, Off the Streets, these are three solid areas of service. What do you see as the future? At 180, what do you see as the future?
That's a very good question. We have a staff of builders, and when I joined the agency, Mary Carol and I have decided that we want to build toward the future of social service in Cincinnati. So you can be assured that we'll be watching for opportunities like new needed things like Off the Streets and other services that we can provide.
Which an essential element, you mentioned, Mary Carol, that how many different agencies are involved with Off the Streets?
Oh, at least 25 to 30.
And that's a hallmark of the future of social services.
It absolutely
is collaboration.
is. It
and
is.
people ask all the time, why can't social service agencies collaborate? This is a model.
This is an absolute model. We couldn't do it without all of our collaborators. It is.
Well, the Off the Streets has been so widely recognized and awarded, I think, not just because of the nature of the service, but because of the huge collaboration that really has been led so well by Mary Carroll.
Well, congratulations
Thank
to
you,
you
Dan.
and to the entire staff and to all the people connected with Cincinnati Union Bethel, all of the parents who bring their children, the women who live there,
Yeah.
everybody. Congratulations, and it's going to be very exciting to see the renovation of Anna Louise Inn and getting ready for the next 180 years.
Yes,
So,
and thank you very much for this opportunity.
well, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Next week, we will return to candidates and the elections. We leave you this morning with some thoughts from Steve MacConnell about the role of Cincinnati Union Bethel in the community.
If we were not here, those children would not be ready for kindergarten. If the Anna Louise Inn was not here, those women would not have had safe, affordable housing. If the Off the Streets program didn't exist, we would have women suffering on the street, not having a chance to become a healthy, vibrant citizen of the community.